So the two things that really worry us, one is that now that this home has become the school unit, and the school building is no longer the school unit, that's a challenge for various reasons. And secondly, when we talk about EdTech and how to drive EdTech, I think my fear lies in the fact that since most of them are from rural Gujarat, they have very little access in that sense to technology as we understand it.
School is not just a channel. For most vulnerable populations in India, it is where equity comes in, but it is meant to equalize. Secondly, it is also meant to the teacher to be able to give some amount of personal attention. Thirdly, it's a peer-to-peer learning environment, right? Because students learn from each other. And I think fourthly, there's a safe space. Even if you come from a violent, family where there's a violence going on, you're in school, you're safe, or you're supposed to be safe.
Right.
And I think it's just simplistic to say, just because the channel aspect can be fulfilled by digital, the other four aspects are also equally. I mean, it's almost, if you think of it that way, it's like, wow, what are we saying? So I think the more we start moving away from saying EdTech solves the problem to saying, look, this is what a sanctum sanctorum does.
What I find missing in the EdTech thing is, very frankly, it's highly supply driven currently. I'm not so sure about the demand side. I don't think the demand side has the infrastructure to adopt or adapt to the kind of technology that is being used currently. Secondly, that EdTech to me is a misnomer. Either it's education or technology, right? And either you understand technology or you understand education. So you have to have people who understand the system to be able to deliver it, not just say, oh, you're an EdTech guy, so build this for me and we will deliver. Doesn't work, right? So if we are looking at EdTech, I think at least one thing we need to establish is there is a two-way flow of information, whatever be the anomalies in between. At least we get a sense of the gap.
Obviously, the access to device is a question, but the idea of looking at all of this is that we are not going to wait for the infrastructure to be ready for the last child to even start. And the experimentation which needs to happen, like Ratna pointed out, is not a siloed experimentation of what I as an implement organization am trying to do with tech, or what I as a tech organization am trying to do myself and trying to push it to the implementation organizations. It comes from an extremely bold and open and almost sort of a crazy boldness kind of collaborations and partnerships which need to happen. So it is time to open out a little bit and kind of understand which are the areas which are core to my organization and the elements which I require, from where else can I find that expertise to plug in.
There is a innovation phase and there is a application of that innovation, customization and scaling phase. And in any part, any sector which succeeds, you want that first phase to be obviously very, very meritocratic and very, very focused on models which work. Because money for that first phase is very scarce. It's almost the NGO is back against the wall saying, I have to justify cost efficiency while justifying innovation. The two cannot work. Innovation by definition is cost inefficient. And I think a third one, which is the part which maybe we can all change, is unless there are some simple outcomes which are focused on the demand side, like Ratna, you said, which is, look, what is the efficacy of this model getting to the last child? What is the efficacy of this changing the behavioral norms, right? Those real things which matter, not just reach. One proposal this group could actually do is if this group comes around and defines those 5 outcomes, right, which really matter to the most vulnerable, etc. And we then come across as these are the 10 models which actually fare the best on those.
Coming from this, quotation which is there, which says it takes a village to raise a child. What has happened in today's world is that the village has given way to a joint family. The joint family has given way to a nuclear family. The nuclear family has given way to a double income nuclear family. And today the parents believe, if I have sent the child to school, now it's the school's problem. It is not my problem at all. And as NGOs, we are also not really helping. I hardly see any initiatives which are really focused on parents at a multiple level where they and the community can actually come in, and that vulnerability and that lack of resilience is clearly visible at this point in time.
Unless we engage with communities to see what is already working for them, number one, what they're comfortable with. We can't go in like, James Bond with the solutions to everything. I mean, they have to understand, adapt, accept, and own, right? So we have to deal with communities, and that's where frugal innovation comes in.
9th, 10th, 11th और 12th ग्रेड में आपको एक्टिव असिस्टेंस चाहिए. आप सिर्फ अपने डिवाइस पे नहीं सीख सकते. You will need some bit of support. You will need some bit of tutoring there. So वहाँ पर I'm very certain there is a role that perhaps technology can play. So या तो you give it to them at their doorstep. If they have access to device technology and connectivity, then obviously give it to them, like most urban well-off kids have. Byju's hai and all those things. But अगर वो possible नहीं है, तो how you can do it at a community level, जहाँ पर हमारे tutors community center में बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं. Parents, however illiterate they are, however unconditioned they are, per se, do play an important part. Even अगर वो लोग passive permission दे देते हैं, passive support दे देते हैं, the child definitely does much better than active resistance. And the more parents see learning content on their mobile phones, despite not being able to comprehend, I'm very certain वहाँ change होने वाला है.
I think there is need to think frugally, like I think Ratna also spoke about. These massive solutions are almost destined to fail. Because massive solution बनाते 3 साल हो जाएंगे, फिर समझाते और 3 साल हो जाएंगे. By the time things have changed. So there's something quite good about agile innovation, frugal components. Now, second part is many parts of the component are not tech. These are more about behavior change, role models. So the more we move away from the term EdTech, I feel, to actually say we have to talk about inclusive impact, which has an element of technology, it has an element of community, it has an element of something else, right? I think that was the second point.
So I think that somewhere along the way, EdTech will be part of a blended model. If a funder looks at a blended model, which gives you an end-to-end solution of which tech is a part of the conversation and not by itself an isolated piece of the conversation, then it will attract funding. I'm not so sure it will do as a standalone piece.
It's not that EdTech should be at the center of all funding discussions. In fact, education should be in the center of the discussion for all funding conversations for 95% of the funding tables. But there will be 5 to 10% of the funding tables where EdTech component building, like Anant talked about, will be center place, where it will be about those bold funders and those other EdTech NGOs who are building stuff which a lot of other NGOs can use and build it into their programs as a component.
I think the writing is on the wall. This has been a wake-up call for all of us, and how much ever the community is not ready, the ecosystem is not ready, the school system is not ready, but I think eventually it will become an area which will see increased investments going forward.